Story 1. I live in Kennewick, Washington. Quiet place, not too rural, not too city. If you've ever driven through here, you'd know the roads at night get real dark, especially the older overpasses and viaducts. Not much lighting, just stretches of concrete surrounded by nothing. This happened back in November of 2018. It was around 10 at night. My husband and I were heading home from dinner at his sister's place over in Pasco. He was driving. I remember it being cold but not freezing, and the kind of dark that makes every shadow feel a little heavier than it should. We were coming over the viaduct on 395. I wasn't paying much attention. I was halfway leaned against the door, scrolling on my phone, listening to whatever music he had on low. Traffic wasn't bad, but there were cars ahead of us and a couple behind, so we weren't totally alone. He was doing about 50, steady, nothing out of the ordinary. And then, it was there, right in front of me, just walking across our lane, inches from my side of the car, like it came out of nowhere. It wasn't an animal. It wasn't a person. It was something. My brain couldn't even register it fast enough. I gasped, slammed my eyes shut like we were about to hit it straight on. I knew we were going to. It was too close. But then, nothing. No impact, no sound. Nothing hit the windshield. I opened my eyes and whipped my head to the side mirror, thinking maybe it turned or ran, but I didn't see anything. That's when I looked at my husband. He was sitting straight up, staring into the rear view like something just passed through us. Literally through us. He didn't say anything for a second, just kept checking the mirrors like he couldn't believe what just happened. Then finally he muttered, "What the fuck was that?" I didn't answer. I didn't even know what to say. I was still processing it. So he asked again, louder this time, "Did you see that?" I just nodded. That's all I could do. He said, "It was right in front of me." I swear to God, I said, "I saw it too. On my side, it was right there." And then we both looked behind us. The car directly behind us had swerved into the next lane. Not hard, but enough to notice. Like they saw it too and tried to dodge it. No horn, no braking, just a quick veer. Whatever it wasn't just in our heads. I don't even know how to describe this thing. The closest I can come is, it looked like Hoggle. You know that weird goblin thing from the Labyrinth movie? But it wasn't a puppet. It was real. And bigger than you'd expect. Not tall, maybe 4 feet at most, but stocky and dense, like every part of it was compact and heavy. Its skin looked brown, like mud or worn leather. The face was human, very human, but wrong. Like someone tried to build a face from memory and got the proportions slightly off. The features were wide and thick. The nose looked mashed in, lips full but crooked. The eyes were big but too deep set. It had clothes on too, not rags or anything, actual clothing. A dirty jacket, pants that didn't match. Nothing that stood out except it was dressed, which made it even worse. And the arms, God, the arms were too long, way too long for its body. They swung while it walked, like they weren't connected right at the joints. The way it moved wasn't animal, wasn't human. It was fast, but not running, just unnaturally fast, like it had skipped a frame in reality. It didn't make a sound. No footsteps, no voice. Not even when it was directly in front of the car. We didn't hit it, but there's no way we missed it either. The way it passed us, it felt like it phased through, like it wasn't bound by the same physics as us. I know how that sounds, but that's exactly how it felt. And the craziest part, there was no place for it to come from. No sidewalk, no shoulder, just guardrails, solid barriers on both sides. It couldn't have climbed up. It couldn't have jumped down. There was nowhere it could have come from or gone. After we crossed the viaduct, we stayed quiet. For a long time. We didn't even pull over. I think we were both afraid to stop, like whatever it was might still be out there in the dark somewhere. About 5 minutes later, my husband said, "It looked like it knew what it was doing." And he was right. That thing didn't stumble out like an animal. It didn't look confused like a person in the wrong place. It walked with purpose, like it wanted to be seen. I asked him, "You think it was real?" He nodded. "Yeah, too real." And that was it. We never reported it, never talked to anyone about it except my cousin, and only because she's into weird, paranormal stuff. I looked up everything after that: goblins, cryptids, skinwalkers, fae folk, shadow people, whatever I could find. But nothing matches what we saw. Everything's close, but not quite. Story 2. I wasn't even supposed to be on that road. I live in southern Pennsylvania, just outside York. Real rural. Lots of woods, winding back roads, no streetlights, that kind of thing. It was late March, a Thursday night, cold but not freezing. I'd been visiting my sister in Harrisburg, stayed too long, and decided to take a shortcut home because my GPS showed a 15-minute time difference. Dumbest decision I've ever made. This road, Tanner's Gap Road, looked like nothing. Just a narrow strip of cracked asphalt slicing through pitch-black forest. No houses, no signs, no lights, not even lines painted on the pavement. It felt wrong as soon as I turned onto it, like I'd entered some place I wasn't supposed to be. But I kept going because I didn't want to admit I was creeped out by a road. A couple miles in, my radio started making this weird static. Not constant, just a popping sound, like when you plug in a loose AUX cord. I fiddled with the dial, thinking it was just interference. Then the display glitched. It blinked off, then came back on with random letters across the screen. Not numbers, letters, like RZ47FJ. Then it blinked off again completely. I was like, okay, that's weird, but I kept driving. I should have turned around, but turning around on that road would have meant backing up or trying a three-point turn with zero shoulder and nothing but thick trees on both sides. So I just drove faster. The forest got thicker, the road darker, and I swear I hadn't seen a mailbox or driveway in over 10 minutes. That's when my headlights hit something up ahead. At first I thought it was a deer. I slowed down, but it wasn't. It was a person. He was standing dead center in the road, facing away from me, not moving. I hit the brakes hard and stopped maybe 50 feet behind him. My high beams lit him up like a spotlight. He was tall, real tall, thin, wearing what looked like a gray hoodie and jeans. His hands were just hanging by his sides. I honked the horn. Nothing. Didn't flinch. I yelled through the window, "Hey, you okay?" Still nothing. So I just sat there, heart thumping, staring at this guy standing stone still in the middle of a deserted road at midnight, not turning around, not reacting. I couldn't see his face, but something about how he stood. It wasn't right. His posture was too stiff. His arms didn't hang naturally. They were a little too long, and something was wrong with his legs. They bowed inward slightly, like his knees were facing the wrong way. I was frozen, like my body didn't want to move. I don't know how long I sat there. 30 seconds? A minute? Then, he turned. It wasn't a normal turn. He didn't shift his weight or step or anything. He just twisted. His whole upper body rotated while his feet stayed planted, like a doll being spun by the shoulders. And when I finally saw his face, I nearly screamed. He didn't have a face. It wasn't a mask. It was like a blank canvas. No eyes, no mouth, just skin. Smooth and pale and stretched too tight across his skull. But I knew he was looking at me. I felt it. Like something in my brain recognized that this thing was aware of me in a way I couldn't understand. It wasn't just looking at me. It was inside my head. The engine died, no sputtering, just cut out. Lights, dash, everything, dead. I started shaking, pure panic. I fumbled with the keys, turned the ignition, nothing. I locked the doors and just stared as this thing started walking toward my car. It didn't walk right. Its arms hung stiffly and its knees bent the wrong way as it moved, but it was fast. No jerking or stumbling. Smooth, steady, fast. Covering ground like it didn't have bones, just joints that worked however they wanted. I was yelling now, "Come on, come on!" As I turned the key again and again. Nothing. Then the headlights flicked back on for half a second, and in that flash, it was suddenly right in front of my hood. I screamed. Its head tilted slightly, like it was curious, like it was studying me. The blank skin rippled, like something underneath was pushing outward, trying to get through. Then it started to bend down. Its hand pressed against the hood, then the windshield. Long fingers, no fingernails, just skin. It leaned closer, its face inches from the glass. I could see every pore, every vein. I could feel it breathing, even though it didn't have a mouth. That's when the car turned back on, just roared to life like nothing had happened. I slammed it into reverse without thinking. The thing didn't move out of the way, so I just backed up hard, tires squealing, nearly hitting a tree as I turned the wheel and whipped the car around. I didn't look back, not once. I tore down that road at 70 miles an hour, praying I didn't hit anything. It took 10 minutes to find another road, one with lines and lights and signs. My phone came back on. The radio worked again. It was like none of it had happened. I didn't go home right away. I pulled into the parking lot of a gas station and just sat there shaking until the sun came up. When I finally told someone, I expected them to laugh. But my neighbor, he's in his 70s, just went quiet. He said, "You were on Tanner's Gap?" I nodded. He said, "Yeah." "Don't go there again. They found a car abandoned out there in '98. Guy vanished. Engine was still running." That was all he said. Then he shut his door. I never took that road again. In fact, I avoid that whole stretch of woods now. Don't even like seeing it on the map. I don't care if it sounds crazy. I know what I saw, and I know if that car hadn't turned back on at that exact second, I wouldn't be here telling you this. Whatever that thing was, it wanted me out of that car. And I'm almost certain, if it had gotten in, I'd never have come back out. Story 3. I live in Waukesha, Wisconsin, born and raised. I've worked warehouse shifts most of my adult life. That night I was driving back from visiting my girlfriend's parents near Waupaca. She was with me, asleep in the passenger seat, wrapped in a blanket, head against the window. It was 2:30 a.m. and we were somewhere between Red Granite and Coloma. We'd stopped for gas just off Route 21. I remember the gas station because it was the only thing lit up for miles, and the clerk looked half asleep behind the counter. My GPS rerouted me after the stop. It took me off the highway and onto some two-lane county road. No idea why. I figured it was quicker or avoiding some construction, so I didn't question it. That's how I ended up alone on a cracked stretch of road, hemmed in by trees with no street lights or shoulders. Just road, woods, and that awful rural silence you only notice when you're wide awake and alone behind the wheel. I turned the radio off when my girlfriend fell asleep. She's a light sleeper and hates talk radio, so it was just the hum of tires and the occasional squeak from the windshield wipers. No rain, just that gross film of fog and early spring grime that builds up. I saw the deer sign maybe 10 minutes into the drive. That jolted me a little. My buddy's sister hit a deer last winter and broke her wrist on the steering wheel. The deer wrecked her whole front end. I eased off the gas, dropped to about 40. That part of the road started twisting and curving through some hilly patches, so I was just crawling through it. There was this one sharp curve, like a hard right turn tucked between two steep banks of trees. As I slowed down to make the curve, my headlights caught something on the right edge of the woods. Movement. It wasn't a deer, it was too tall. I braked almost to a stop because I thought it might be a person. Then it stepped forward out of the woods and just stood at the tree line, facing the road. Now this is where things got wrong. At first I thought it was a guy, maybe a hiker or some weird night drifter. He, or it, stood upright. Too upright. The proportions were wrong. It was tall, like over 6 feet, but with arms that hung too low. Not like a bodybuilder, more like stretched. Its limbs didn't swing right. They just kind of hung there. I stopped the car fully. I didn't know why. Something about it made my gut twist. Its face, Jesus. It didn't have one. I mean, it had a head, sure. But my headlights lit it up pretty well, and there were no eyes, no mouth, no nothing. Just smooth, pale skin. Like it was covered in wax. But the way it angled its head, like it was looking right at me, made me feel like it could see anyway. I whispered, "What the hell?" And that made my girlfriend stir. She mumbled something, half awake. Then this thing took one step forward. I slammed it in reverse. Tires squealed a little, which woke her up fully. She said, "What's going on?" and sat up, confused and scared. I didn't answer. I just kept backing up into the curve until I could turn the wheel and pull a U-turn. As I spun the car around, I looked in the rearview mirror. It had stepped out into the road. Now I could see it fully in the red of my taillights. Its arms were too long, almost reaching its knees. Its legs bent wrong, not backward like an animal's, just not human. And that faceless head still tilted as if locked onto me. I floored it. My girlfriend was yelling, asking me what the hell I saw. I just said, I don't know what that was. We didn't talk for the next 20 minutes. I just kept driving until we hit a real highway again. I wouldn't let the GPS reroute. I pulled over near a gas station once we were back in civilization and told her what I saw. She said, "You're probably just tired." It was foggy, maybe it was a tree or something. I wanted to believe that. I did, but she didn't see how that thing moved. It wasn't just standing there like a person, it was like it was waiting. And the way it stepped into the road, slow, like it didn't care if I ran or stopped. It knew I was there. It wanted me to see it. And when I looked back that last time, right before we turned onto the highway, I swear to God, it was still standing there in the road, just watching the darkness behind us. I've never driven that route again. I deleted the GPS history and made sure future routes avoided anything near Red Granite. Story 4. I've lived in Ely, Nevada my whole life. Small desert town, mostly quiet, except during tourist season when people pass through on their way to Great Basin. I worked nights at the copper mine just outside town, driving the same lonely stretch of Highway 50 back and forth. They call it the loneliest road in America for a reason. 2 a.m., you might not see another pair of headlights for an hour. This happened last year in October. I don't talk about it much because I know how it sounds, but I swear to you, what I saw wasn't human. It was a Thursday night, clear skies, temperature just above freezing. I'd finished a double shift, dead tired, just wanting to get home. My old Dodge Dart isn't fancy. No cameras, no lane assist, just the hum of tires on pavement and the dull glow of my dashboard. About 15 miles out of town, the road cuts through a stretch of desert with no lights and no landmarks, just sagebrush and black hills in the distance. That night, I remember looking up through the windshield and thinking how damn bright the stars were. The kind of sky you only get in the middle of nowhere. I had the radio off, just the engine and the road. Then out of nowhere, this thing bolted across the highway, maybe 20 feet in front of me. I didn't even have time to brake. I just slammed my foot down and swerved a little out of instinct. My headlights lit it up for half a second, but I saw enough. It was tall, at least 7 feet, maybe more. But it wasn't standing. It moved on all fours like a dog, but it wasn't shaped like anything I've ever seen. Pale white skin, almost bluish, like it hadn't seen sunlight in years. No fur, no clothes, no tail. Just long limbs and a head that looked wrong. Too small for its body, and its mouth hung open as it ran, not like it was breathing, more like it was smiling. It didn't make a sound. No growl, no footsteps. Just this blur of pale skin, and those limbs working in ways they shouldn't. The way it moved was the worst part. It wasn't natural. The arms bent backwards like it had no bones, like it was galloping but not touching the ground. I screamed without meaning to, just this reflex. It was gone in an instant. 1 second it was there, and the next it vanished into the scrub brush on the side of the highway. I didn't stop. Hell no. I floored it. Tires spun for half a second on the shoulder before I got control. I didn't even check the rear view. I couldn't. I was too afraid I'd see it again. I made it home in under 10 minutes. Don't ask how fast I was going. I ran inside, locked every door and window, turned on every light, sat in the kitchen, breathing like I just sprinted a mile. I felt like I was going to throw up. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped my keys twice trying to put them on the hook. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. I just sat in my living room with the TV on low, volume barely above mute. Every time I heard a sound outside, I jumped. A coyote howl, the wind rattling the windows. I kept thinking about how fast that thing moved. If it wanted to follow me, it could have. Next morning, I went out to check the car, half hoping it was all a dream. But there were these long smears of dirt and dust along the passenger side, like something brushed up against it as I passed. I didn't tell anyone at first, but a few weeks later I broke down, and told my buddy Joel. He's been a sheriff's deputy in the county for 10 years. I expected him to laugh, but he just looked at me and said, "Out by Dead Horse Pass?" I nodded. He didn't say anything else, just sipped his coffee and looked away. Like he knew something. I tried to press him on it, but he just shook his head and said, "You're not the first." Not the first. I never got more out of him, and I didn't push. Some things out here, you're better off not knowing. I've taken a different route home ever since, even if it adds 20 minutes. I don't care. I'll go around the damn mountain range if I have to. I still don't know what I saw. Some people say skinwalker, but I don't know. It didn't feel like a legend. It felt real, like it was waiting there. Like it knew the road I drove, knew my schedule. I've driven that highway 100 times. But that night, that thing, I've never been the same since. And I've never driven that stretch after midnight again. Story 5, I live in a small town in central Illinois, the kind where nothing really happens unless you make it happen. Everyone knows everyone, or they think they do. I work nights at a liquor store just off the main road. We close at 1:30 a.m., and I usually head straight home on my old moped. It's not fast, but at that time of night, I don't need it to be. There's never anyone else on the road. This happened about a year ago. My boyfriend, now my husband, was house sitting for a friend on the north side, just past Elmwood Cemetery. That place has got a reputation. Every small town has one. The haunted cemetery, with stories you laugh about in daylight, but don't talk about after dark. I never bought into it, though. I'd walk through there during the day a few times, even taken photos. It always felt peaceful to me. Nothing weird, nothing off. That night, I left his place around 2 a.m. The streets were completely dead. No cars, no people, not even raccoons. Just me, the whine of the moped, and the occasional street light flickering like it had better things to do. I was headed south, and the quickest way home meant cutting right past Elmwood Cemetery. It didn't bother me. I'd done it before. But something about that stretch of road always made the air feel heavier. No wind, just stillness. As I rolled up to the intersection at Maple and 3rd, right next to the cemetery, I hit a red light. Now here's the thing with mopeds. They're too light to trip the road sensors. So if no one's in the lane behind you, the light just doesn't change. I sat there, engine humming beneath me, waiting for a light that wasn't gonna turn. I looked up and down the road, still empty. Then I checked my rearview mirror. There was someone standing right behind me. She was close, way too close, like maybe 4 feet from the back of my bike. No shoes, hair hanging down like it hadn't been brushed in months. Her skin looked wrong, like wet paper that had been torn and stretched, and I swear to God I could see the streetlight through her shoulder. I didn't even think. I just moved, twisted the throttle and shot through that red light like it wasn't even there. The moped isn't built for speed, but I was pushing it harder than I ever had. I didn't care if a cop saw me. I didn't care if I wiped out. I just needed to get away. The thing is, I didn't hear footsteps, no scream, no voice, but I felt her, not on the road anymore, with me, like her presence had stuck to me, like wet clothes you can't peel off. I was flying down the road when my front tire caught the edge of a shallow ditch near an old drainage field. The bike jerked hard, and the engine sputtered and died. For a second, everything went silent. I was on the side of the road, half in the grass, fumbling with the ignition like my life depended on it. I didn't want to look up. I knew, if I looked behind me, she'd be there. Still barefoot, still soaking, still watching. Come on, come on, come on. I whispered like a prayer, turning the key, yanking the throttle, trying to get the stupid thing to cough back to life. The moped made a choking sound, then roared. I didn't even check the road. I just turned the wheel and floored it, bouncing up onto the asphalt and heading straight for home. I didn't look in the mirror again, not once. I kept my eyes forward, locked on the middle of the road, heart hammering like a war drum in my chest. When I pulled into my driveway, I didn't turn the engine off. I just sat there shaking. Eventually, I forced myself to look behind me. There was nothing, no one, just darkness. I ran inside, locked every door, and didn't sleep. Not that night, not the next one either. I didn't tell my boyfriend right away. I didn't want to sound crazy, but a few days later, I finally did. He went quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You know, the guy whose house I was sitting, his grandma used to be a groundskeeper at Elmwood. She died a couple months before that. He said she started losing it near the end, wandered out onto the road one night and got hit by a car. That same intersection." I didn't respond. I couldn't. I haven't driven past Elmwood since. I take the long way now, even during the day. Story 6. I used to work graveyard shifts at this 24-hour diner off Highway 42 when I was in college, just outside of Athens, Georgia. Junior year, I was pulling something like 60 hours between two jobs and still trying to carry a full course load. I didn't even have a proper bed, just a mattress on the floor in this tiny off-campus dorm I split with two other guys. I was running on caffeine, nerves, and whatever microwave burritos I could scrounge up from the gas station. That night, I got off at 3:47 a.m. I remember the exact time because I texted my roommate to say I was heading back, just in case I nodded off behind the wheel and didn't make it. That sounds dramatic, but I was dead tired. I'd caught myself drifting on the road before. But this night, I was out of it. I was really pushing it. I was only 10 minutes from the dorms, winding down this tree-lined stretch of rural road. No streetlights, just my high beams punching holes in the dark. The windows were up, heater going, radio off. Silence, the kind that hums in your ears. I was probably doing 45, maybe less. I can't be sure. What I do remember is the sudden weight shift, my chin dipping down like I was finally giving into sleep. It happened in seconds. I didn't even realize I was drifting into the left lane until something touched the back of my head. Not a thump, not a breeze. Fingers, 5 of them. Slow and unmistakable. I felt them comb into my hair from the base of my skull and move, just like a hand dragging upward, parting through my hair, fingers pressing against my scalp like whoever or whatever was trying to wake me up. At first, I thought I was hallucinating. Micro-sleep, stress. Maybe my brain was glitching out. But then I felt it again, harder, a kind of pressure, like a grip tightening on the back of my head. Then suddenly it pulled. My head snapped up so fast my neck cracked. My eyes locked straight ahead just in time to see the outline of a tree flying toward me. Way too close. I jerked the wheel right. Tires screeched. I swerved back into my lane. My heart was going nuts. I was breathing like I'd just run 10 miles. But what scared me more than almost dying was that I couldn't move my head down after that. I tried looking at the dash. Nothing. My chin just wouldn't drop. It was like an invisible hand had me by the back of the skull and was holding me up, keeping my eyes forward. I kept driving. I didn't know what else to do. Every time I tried to tilt or shift, it was like something said no. Not verbally, but physically. Firm, not violent, but commanding. I could still move enough to check my mirrors, but anything lower than eye level was out of the question. I wasn't asleep anymore. I was stone cold awake. I drove the rest of the way like that, stiff, frozen, the steering wheel slick with sweat. Every time I blinked, I half expected to see something in the rear view, something sitting behind me, but the back seat was empty. I glanced once or twice, quick and panicked, but I didn't see anything. I felt it though, the hand, the presence. It never let go. Then I pulled into the dorm lot and turned off the engine. The dash light faded out, silence again, and that's when it let go, just like that. I felt the grip loosen, those phantom fingers slipping out of my hair. My neck went slack. I dropped my head and just sat there, catching my breath. My hands were still gripping the wheel. I could finally move again. I thought that was it, that maybe I'd had some weird sleep deprivation episode and my brain had made up the whole thing. I wanted it to be that. But then this smell filled the car, cherry pipe tobacco. I swear on everything I love, I don't smoke, never have. Nobody rides in my car with cigarettes or anything like that. I'm strict about it. And this wasn't just a whiff, it was strong, rich, sweet, like someone had just lit a pipe in the seat behind me. I froze again. My mouth went dry. My Uncle Will, my godfather, used to smoke that exact stuff. Same smell. I grew up around it. He always had this curved wooden pipe and a little tin of cherry tobacco he carried in his coat pocket. I hadn't smelled it in years. He died during my first month of college. Sudden stroke. I didn't even make it home for the funeral because of midterms and work. I still feel guilty about that. And I swear to God, in that moment, sitting in the dark, head still buzzing, I knew it was him. I knew it. I didn't cry. I didn't freak out. I just sat there in silence, gripping the wheel. I whispered, "Thank you," out loud. I didn't even know I was going to say it until I heard myself do it. The smell vanished after that, not all at once, but gradually. Faded like smoke trailing out a window. I stepped out of the car, legs shaking, and didn't look in the back seat. I didn't have to. I don't tell people this story often because no one believes it. They laugh or say I was dreaming, or that it was my subconscious trying to keep me alive. But there's no science that explains what I felt. Those fingers, that grip, the way I was being physically held in place for the rest of the drive, like I was a puppet with a string tied to my spine. Story 7. I live in Spokane, Washington, out near the edges of the city where the houses thin out and the pine trees start taking over. It's not the middle of nowhere, but it's quiet enough that sometimes at night it feels like you're the only person left alive. I work nights at a data center, but this happened on one of my rare days off. My roommate Dylan had just picked me up from this small diner we liked, around 10 minutes from our place. We were both tired and full, nothing strange about the night, no weird feeling or creepy signs. It was just cold, a little fog rolling in, and we were driving through one of those long wooded stretches of road where there's no lights, no houses, just forest pressing in on both sides. We weren't talking, just listening to the radio. Then Dylan suddenly slowed the car down. He didn't slam the brakes or anything, just eased up like he saw a deer or something. I looked over at him. "What's up?" He had this weird expression, like half focused. He nodded up the road and said, "There's a guy crossing the street. Don't want to scare him." I looked ahead. There was no one there. I leaned forward, squinting, and looked both sides. The headlights just lit up the trees and a patch of road. No movement. Nothing. "I don't see anybody," I said. Dylan looked at me like I was the crazy one. He just walked across, like right in front of us. My stomach dropped a little, not out of fear, just that subtle wrongness when someone sees something you don't. I didn't know what to say, so I just said, "You sure?" He didn't answer. He started driving again, slower now, cautious. About 5 seconds later, we heard this sharp thump at the back of the car, like something slapped the trunk. Not a full hit, just a sudden thud. I whipped my head around and looked out the back window, and I saw it. It was standing about 4 or 5 yards behind us, right in the middle of the road, just standing there. This tall, pitch-black figure, easily over 7 feet tall. I couldn't make out a face, but its shape was wrong. Skinny, but not human skinny, like its arms were just a little too long, and there was this thick white stripe across his chest like a band or a sash. No features, no color, just black and that one white line. I turned forward, heart pounding, and asked, "That him?" Dylan nodded without looking. "Yeah." We didn't say anything else. We didn't slow down. We didn't look back. We just drove. I kept waiting for something to happen, waiting for it to show up in the mirror again or see it running alongside the car, but nothing. A few minutes passed. Trees gave way to buildings, and we rolled into the outskirts of the city. Street lights came back. It felt safer. We stopped at a red light near this gas station we always used. A bus bench sat on the sidewalk across the street, half hidden behind one of those overgrown bushes they never trim. And that's where I saw it again. It was sitting on the bench. That same tall figure, hunched slightly forward. Same height, same white stripe across the chest. Only now, it was holding something, a teddy bear. Its massive hand just curled around it like it was nothing. It didn't move, didn't get up, just sat there. But its head was turned and it was watching us. Dylan saw it too. I know because his hands tightened on the wheel and he leaned forward like he wanted the light to turn green faster. Neither of us said a word. Green. We turned. As we passed, I couldn't help it. I looked out the window, right at it. It didn't wave. It didn't chase us. It just tilted its head and kept looking, like it knew exactly who we were. That's it. That's the whole thing. We never saw it again. We didn't tell anyone. Not really. Who the hell would believe that? All I know is there was nothing out there when Dylan stopped the first time. Nothing visible. And then that thing shows up. Still don't know what it was. A hallucination? Mass hysteria? A prank? Number, it was too tall, too real, too aware of us. Story 8. I'm from a little place outside Elgin, northeast Scotland. Miles of flat road, pitch black stretches, and barely a house light after 9. I was 19 and had just started learning to drive. My cousin Claire had a Vauxhall Corsa and agreed to teach me after work since I couldn't afford lessons. It was summer, but in our part of the country, even summer nights can feel colder than they should. We were out near Fogwat. Locals call it the Black Road because there's no streetlight for nearly 10 miles, just farms and trees and fields. You get sheep sometimes, maybe a deer. You definitely don't expect people walking about on foot, especially not at 10:30 at night. Claire was in the passenger seat scrolling through her playlist. I was gripping the steering wheel tighter than I probably needed to. It was my first time driving in 5th gear. The Corsa was humming steady and the road was dead straight. No traffic, nothing ahead. I was focusing on the gears and keeping the speed right, trying not to stall. That's when she said it. Ease off the gas a bit, you're going too fast. I nodded, adjusting the pedal, eyes on the road. And then we both saw him. There was a man, standing directly in the middle of the road, just standing. I didn't even think. Slammed the brake and the clutch at the same time like I'd been taught, full-on panic mode. Tires screeched and my heart jumped into my throat. But here's the part I still can't explain. We went through him. I don't mean we hit him. I mean we passed through him. Like he wasn't solid, like he wasn't even really there. Claire screamed. I slammed the gear stick into neutral without meaning to. We came to a dead stop. I turned to her and asked, "Did we just hit someone?" She was staring out the windshield, breathing hard. "We didn't hit him," she said, voice shaking. "We didn't feel anything." I threw the hazards on and jumped out of the car. My legs were shaking. Claire was yelling at me to stay inside, but I had to check. I thought maybe he'd been thrown off the road. Maybe he was unconscious in the ditch. I had my phone torch on and I was scanning the grass. Nothing. No body, no blood, no sign anyone had ever been there. Just the sound of insects and the wind moving through the grass. The car's engine ticking as it cooled. Back inside the car, Claire was pale. She wouldn't even look at me at first. "Tell me you saw him," I said. She nodded slowly. "I did. Black jacket, white shirt, short dark hair, just standing there, like he wanted us to stop." That was exactly what I saw too. "Where'd he go?" I asked. Stupid question, but I couldn't help it. "There's nowhere to go," she said. "He was in the middle of the Fursting Road." We sat there for maybe 3 minutes, engine off, not talking. I kept checking the mirrors, expecting him to show up again, but the road stayed empty. Finally, Claire said, "Drive. Let's just get the hell out of here." The rest of the ride home was silent. We didn't even put the radio on. We kept checking behind us every few seconds. Every signpost looked like it might be a person. Every dark patch on the tarmac felt like something waiting. When we got back, Claire lit a cigarette and sat on the front step of my place. "You know what freaks me out the most?" she said, not looking at me. "He didn't even move." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. We both knew it hadn't been a deer or a shadow or something we imagined. It was too clear, too detailed. The weird thing is, I drove that road plenty of times after that, even on my own. I never saw him again, but I started asking around, casually, trying to find out if anyone else had ever seen something out there. A guy at the petrol station near Roth's told me he refuses to drive that stretch after dark. Said his dad hit something once, and when he got out, there was no damage to the car. But his dad swore he'd felt the impact. Another woman I talked to at the local shop told me her brother used to cycle home from Elgin, and once he got shoved off his bike by nothing same area. Black road, same feeling, cold, wrong. Still, no one ever said they saw what we saw. I don't know what he was. I've heard people say spirits get stuck where they died, but we never read anything in the paper. No missing person, no accident, just a man standing still, like he was waiting for something. What keeps me up at night isn't what happened, it's what didn't. He didn't jump out, didn't scream, didn't react to the car bearing down on him at 50 miles per hour. Just stood there, unblinking, solid, and then suddenly not. I remember the white of his shirt. It caught the headlights just enough that it glowed, but his face had no expression, no emotion, like a mannequin someone had dressed and planted in the middle of the road. Only we both saw him at the same time. We never reported it. What would we have said? "Excuse me, officer, we drove through a man who wasn't there." They'd laugh us out of the station. I've driven that road 100 times since. Nothing's ever happened again. Not to me, anyway. Story 9. I live in Martinsville, Indiana. If you've never heard of it, it's one of those small towns where the gas station cashier still remembers your dog's name and nobody locks their doors except for maybe around prom weekend. I was commuting back from a temporary job up north, 5 hours one way because corporate wouldn't approve my transfer yet. This was back in 2009. I'd been doing the drive every weekend, always the same route. I knew every mile marker, every dented guardrail, every faded billboard. This one Sunday night, I was maybe 40 minutes from home. It was close to 1 a.m. I'd had 2 gas station coffees and a Red Bull just to stay sharp. I wasn't drunk, high, tired, none of that. Weather was clear, no fog, no rain. I was dead sober, and I remember everything. There's a stretch of County Road 825 that cuts through a wooded area and farmland. I'd always noticed a sagging old barn way off the road on the left. Isolated, no house next to it, no driveway leading up to it that I could see. Just this leaning thing sitting in the dark like it was forgotten. I came around the bend and saw it up ahead, faint through the trees. No lights anywhere, just my high beams. As I got closer, maybe half a mile out, something strange caught my eye. It looked like someone flicked a cigarette. You know that little orange arc it makes in the dark? Like a glowing comma? It was right in the space between me and the barn, maybe 30 feet off the road in the grass. I slowed a little, instinctively. I expected to see someone standing there, but there was nobody. No movement, no silhouette, just that orange flick, and then it was gone. I actually said out loud, "What the hell?" My window was down a few inches. No sound, no footsteps crunching grass. I passed that spot doing maybe 30, looked right at it. The barn was to the left, set back in the field, and right where I saw the flick, there was nothing. No one walking, no embers on the ground, no glow, just darkness. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a firefly, but fireflies don't move like that. They hover or blink. This moved, a quick, smooth arc, and hit the ground like someone flicked it. And it wasn't white or greenish like a bug. It was orange-red, like a cigarette cherry. I had this urge to stop. I can't explain it, but it felt pulled, like something wanted me to get out and look. I've driven past deer, coyotes, even saw a bear once, and never felt that. This was something different. It felt intentional. I didn't stop. When I got home, I told my girlfriend about it. She laughed and said, "Maybe some farmer ghost needed a smoke." I didn't laugh. 4 days later, Thursday night, I headed back up to work. Same route. I'd been thinking about that barn all week. I wasn't scared, but it sat in the back of my mind like a splinter. I hit the same bend, looked up ahead, and slammed on the brakes. There was no barn, just open field. Flat grass, untouched. Not a pile of wood, not a burnt frame, nothing. Like it had never been there. I sat there, engine running, just staring. I pulled over onto the shoulder and turned on my hazard lights. Got out, walked into the field a few feet. Nothing. No foundation, no scorch marks, no equipment, just damp grass and dirt. I even checked Google Maps when I got back in the car. I remember doing it, pulled over in front of that empty space, Zooming in, it showed the barn, clear as day, faded red, leaning sideways. Timestamp was from the year before. It had been there. I don't know what happened. I don't know what I saw that night. Story 10, I was living outside Dayton, Ohio, back in 2016, the year all those clown sightings started hitting the news. You remember that, right? People dressed like clowns showing up in parking lots and woods, just standing there with balloons or bats, doing nothing but staring. It sounded stupid at first, a dumb prank that spiraled out of control. But what happened to me that October morning? That wasn't a prank, and no one's ever convinced me otherwise. I used to work the opening shift at a cold storage facility, had to be clocked in by 5 a.m., no exceptions. So most mornings I'd hit the road by 4:30, still pitch dark out that time of year. My route was mostly back roads, 2-lane highways lined with cornfields, no streetlights, just the occasional farmhouse way off in the distance. That morning was no different. I was cruising down Route 235, drinking gas station coffee, half awake, radio low, just trying to get there on time. About 15 minutes into the drive, something caught my eye on the right side of the road, a figure standing by the cornfield. At first I thought it was a scarecrow someone had stuck near the ditch. It had that stiff, awkward posture. But as I got closer, my headlights lit it up. Clown, bright red wig, white face paint, baggy striped suit, no balloon, no sign, no nothing, just standing there, stock still, hands at his sides. The thing that burned into my brain, though, was his face, not smiling. No big red grin or silly expression, just blank. His mouth was slightly open like he was caught mid-breath, and his eyes followed my car. Not just turned his head, followed. I slowed down, not on purpose, just reflex. My foot hovered over the brake, and for a second I felt like I should stop, or turn around, or something, but I didn't. I kept going, heart pounding, trying to rationalize. Halloween's coming up, just some jackass looking for a laugh. Still, I kept glancing in my rearview mirror. Then I saw another one. Up ahead, left side this time, maybe 100 feet from the last. He was in the opposite ditch near a busted fence post. Same getup, same expression. He was facing straight ahead at first, but as I approached, his head rotated, slow, robotic, to face me. And I swear to you, he locked eyes with me. Not like someone pretending, like he saw me, knew me. Just the same blank look, but the gaze had weight, if that makes sense. Heavy. I passed him, and right away I checked my mirror again. He was gone. I hit the brakes, hard, threw on my hazards, sat there in the middle of the road, just staring back. Nothing. No movement. No figure walking away. No sign of anyone hiding in the fields. He wasn't there. I looked to my left, open farmland. On my right, flat road stretching back to where I saw the first clown. He was still there, way back, but clearly visible under the moonlight, just standing where I'd passed him. I rolled down my window and listened. Dead quiet, not even the crickets. I muttered, "Nope," and put the car in drive. Kept going, trying to shake it off. Maybe I blinked and missed him ducking. Maybe it was a trick of the light. But deep down, I knew better. That second clown didn't have time to hide. He couldn't have. I was still watching the rear view when he vanished. And here's what I still can't wrap my head around. A couple minutes later, maybe 3 tops, I passed an old produce stand that was always closed that time of year. As I went by, my headlights caught a figure standing beside it. It was him, the second clown. Same face, same blank expression. Except now he was standing perfectly still, arms hanging limp, head tilted just slightly, like he was waiting for something. He couldn't have beat me there. There was no side road, no shortcut, no vehicle, nothing. Just long, uninterrupted highway. The only way he could have gotten to that produce stand before me was if he teleported. I know how that sounds and I don't care. There's no other explanation. I was staring straight at him, not even blinking. He didn't move, didn't wave or run or anything, but he was closer this time. I could make out more of his face. The paint looked smudged, like it had been worn too long. The red makeup around his lips looked wet, like it was fresh. I gripped the wheel tight and floored it. Didn't care about the speed limit, didn't care about the double yellow lines. I just needed to get away. And this was the part that sticks with me the most. I watched my rearview mirror as I sped off. I kept expecting him to shrink into the distance, disappear like before. He didn't. He wasn't there. Not behind me. Not at the stand. Nowhere. Like the second I passed him, he was just gone. I made it to work early, sat in the lot for 10 minutes before I could make myself get out of the car. I told one guy about it later, Wes from inventory. He laughed at first until he saw I wasn't joking. Then he just said, "Man, I wouldn't take that road again." I didn't. Ever. I went 20 minutes out of my way every shift until I quit 6 months later. Never saw another clown after that.